Instead of paying almost $4 for gas, how would you like to run your car on salt water? Now, it may sound crazy, but wait until you see what a local inventor has come up with that could change the world. And as Channel 3's Michael Mara shows us, that's not all he's trying to do.
Retired TV station owner and broadcast engineer John Kansas was not looking for an answer to the energy crisis. He was looking for a way to cure cancer. 4 years ago, inspiration struck in the middle of the night. Why not use radio waves to kill the cancer cells?
And the best thing that would work as antennas was I could find at 3 o'clock in the morning was my wife's pie pants.
His wife, Marianne, heard the noise and found her husband inventing a radio frequency generator using her pie pans.
I got up immediately and thought he'd lost it.
Here are the basics of John's idea. Radio waves will heat certain metals like gold. Tiny bits of that metal are injected into a cancer patient. Those nanoparticles are attracted to the abnormalities of the cancer cell and ignore the healthy cells. The patient is then exposed to radio waves, and only the bad cells heat up and die. Killing cancer cells is amazing, but John had also stumbled on yet another amazing breakthrough.
You have enough in there?
His machine could actually burn salt water. John Kansas discovered that his radio frequency generator could release the oxygen and hydrogen from salt water and create an incredibly intense flame.
Just like that. If that was inside a car cylinder, you could see the amount of fire that would be in the cylinder. I can put my hand in here.
Put your hand into the beam, nothing happens. Put in a fluorescent bulb and it lights up immediately. At the APV Company laboratory in Akron, top engineers have checked out John's amazing invention, and they were amazed.
And we saw it go up to 1,500 degrees centigrade, the temperature. And it's incredible.
This simple Stirling engine is running with the heat generated by the flames coming off that test tube. The fuel, nothing more than salt water.
Well, that could be a steam engine, a steam turbine. Could be a car engine if you wanted it to be.
That's the true American innovator. Someone that is not looking for something, he just finds it.
This is the most abundant element in the world, water. And salt water is everywhere. And to see it burn actually gives me chills.
So imagine the possibilities. Salt water as the ultimate clean fuel, a happy byproduct of one man searching for a cure for cancer. In Erie, Pennsylvania, Michael Mara, Channel 3 News.
That is amazing. We want it now. Inventor John Kansas says that if some big company wants to buy up his saltwater fuel invention, that's okay. He wants to use all the money to finish his quest to find a cure for cancer.
Wouldn't it be something if we could power our cars, our boats, even our houses with salt water? That would make a darn good story, don't you think? Well, I've come out to Florida's West Coast to see if it could be a reality.
When I visited John Kansas earlier this year, I wanted to talk about his work trying to find a cure for cancer. But before we got down to business, he wanted to show me something else that his machine can do. I scooped up some salt water from the canal behind his home and brought it into his garage where his radio frequency machine sits.
So I'm just going to take this water. How much do you want me to pour in?
All the way up.
All the way up to the top, okay.
He grabbed a paper towel and put it in the test tube to act like a candle wick.
So all that's in this test tube right now is the salt water I just took from your backyard.
Right.
And a paper towel.
Paper towel.
He put the test tube in the machine, then turned it on.
You got it? Pretty neat, huh?
The paper towel amazingly didn't burn. Kansas says in these experiments the flame reaches a temperature around 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit.
You can see the bubbles boiling at the top of the water as it comes down.
He performed the same experiment 2 more times without the paper towel to show that the salt water can burn without anything else in the test tube.
The white there, see the steam coming out?
Kansas has shown the experiment to a handful of scientists around the country who claim they're baffled at watching salt water ignite. A chemist told Kansas that the energy released is in fact hydrogen, that the heat breaks down the hydrogen-oxygen bond in the water.
You could then take plain salt water out of the sea and put it in containers and produce a violent flame that could heat generators that do make electricity or provide other forms of energy.
May 16th, 2007.
Engineers working with Kansas in Erie, Pennsylvania are trying to harness the energy. They've built an engine that, when placed on top of the flame, chugged along for 2 minutes. Kansas admits all this excitement was a stroke of luck. Someone who witnessed his work on the cancer front asked him if perhaps the machine could be used for desalination.
This was just an experiment to try to see whether I could heat salt water. Instead of getting heat, I got fire.
So could this become an alternative source to creating power?
If I would be bold enough, I would probably guess that you can power an automobile with this eventually.
So he conceived of the idea of putting the organisms into an oscillating electromagnetic field and causing them to oscillate, similar to the way a glass oscillates when it's hit with an appropriate audio tone. So he was looking for an electrical frequency that would cause the microorganism to shatter or to be devitalized in some sense. So what he first did was he tried the various wavelengths, such as light, ultraviolet, infrared. He tried them all, and finally he came upon a range of frequencies, which is in the radio range, that cause the destruction of these microorganisms, and the frequencies are specific to each species.
We simply hunt and try. That was all we could do. We put a pure culture of the organism under the microscope, and I start in and I tune this thing till I find a frequency that will destroy it.
By the end of 1932, Rife had isolated a virus from cancer. He had developed a unique culturing technique to sustain it and to make it visible. He had fully explored its various physical properties and had discovered additional transitional forms of the microbe. He had transplanted it into laboratory animals, producing the disease conditions resulting in tumor growth. And then he had found the mortal oscillatory rate of the virus and destroyed it with his beam ray instrument under the microscope. But one test remained. Could the beam tube kill the microorganism inside the body of a host? Rife had established annihilation of the virus in vitro, but could it be done in vivo? And further, if it killed the organism, would it cure the disease? Pleomorphists, like Rife, believe that the relationship between a germ and a disease is more complex than a simple cause and effect arrangement. As we have seen, the arrival of a microorganism in a body does not necessarily always come from an external source, but may instead be
So with the successful animal experiments that Rife conducted, then Dr. Johnson convinced him that they should do a trial on humans. And Rife was hesitant at first, but then consented on the condition that a team of medical specialists would be involved. So with Dr. Johnson's supervision and under the auspices of the University of Southern California, they formed a special research committee, and in 1934 they took 16 terminally ill patients and within a period of 3 months successfully treated all of them.
So, as I say, the results we've had has been very encouraging. We had a clinic in 34 in La Jolla. Dr. Milbeck Johnson, a friend of mine, that was in Los Angeles. Well, he was one of the big brass of the Pacific Mutual Life Insurance Company, a multimillionaire. Incidentally, he was a medical politician, and he had the big whip. He could kind of show these boys in shape a little bit. So we had this clinic. I didn't want to go it, but he said, all right, let's go ahead. That was just shortly after Miss Ellen Scripps died out there, and he rented a whole Ellen Scripps home. We ran a clinic out there. We was there 90 days. We actually ran a clinic about, I would say 70 days. We did actual clinical work. And first I told him I wanted it done in a legitimate order. I said, I want you I want as our pathologist, I want Alvin Ford, which is a friend of both of us, of course. Well, he says, good Lord, he says, you've looked at 1,000 tissues to Alvin's one. It don't make any difference. I said, he is the president of the American Association of Pathologists, and I said, I want his name on every one of the cases we treat. Now I said, I want you to organize a special medical research committee under a bona fide university, which we did under the University of Southern California, Dr. Johnson. Well, he carried a weight there, too. Why, we did it. We were in the clinic. We got through. We did all the reports, photographs, before and after, this, that, and the other. At the end of the time, when we had our meeting, Los Angeles Athletic Club up there, why, this board pronounced 14 of our cases clinically cured.
14 of the 16 patients were successfully treated in the first 70 days, and the remaining 2 were pronounced cured by Dr. James Couch after 3 more weeks treatment with Rife's beam ray. Dr. Couch describes his impressions.
When I was told about this Dr. Roy Rife and how he had a machine out at the Scripps Institute, I went out to see about it and became very much interested in seeing the cases which he had. And the thing that brought me into it more quickly than anything was a man who had a cancer of the stomach. This was a man who staggered into a table just on the vast end of cancer. He was a bag of bones. And as he lay on the bed, Dr. Rife, Dr. Milbank Johnson said, just feel that man's stomach, doctor. So I put my hand on his stomach, which was one solid, hard mass, about just what I could cover with my hand. And it was absolutely solid. And I thought, well, nothing can be done for that. However, they gave him a treatment of the Rife frequencies, and in the course of time, to my astonishment, he completely recovered.
How many times and what was the extent of each treatment, Dr. Well, we used 3 minutes on each treatment. And we found that the patients we treated twice a week, we got better results than the one we treated every day, simply because when we broke down, devitalized this virus or organism in the tissues of the body, it gives the lymphatic system a chance to absorb it and take it up and cast it off.